Hey everybody, and welcome to Gaming Banter with David and Ryan. This week we're going to be talking about a topic that's going to cause a lot of argument and maybe some people to be forever shunned from the video game banter. Uh, we're talking about best game ever, both objectively and subjectively. So basically our opinion as to what game affected the gaming in general the most and what game we pick as our favorite. So we're going to start with, well, I guess let's introduce everybody first. So we have a lot of people. We have Double D.
Whoa, whoa! That's me.
Grue.
Go Dodgers!
I thought this was going to be an episode of Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Derek.
Classic.
And George Alexopoulos. I don't even know if I say that right ever.
Link to the Past.
You are a Link to the Past? Oh,
no.
and I'm Ryan. So we're going to start off with Grue. So, Grue, what's your, objectively, in your opinion, the best game ever?
Alright, probably the best game ever has got to be Half-Life 2. The game absolutely defined a genre. It set the cornerstone for the first-person shooter. It did amazing things with narrative and storytelling and just, how you can say so much without having a lot of dialogue. The pacing was great, and it affected the industry in such a way that I don't think there's been any other game that could do as much as Half-Life 2 did.
I'm going to disagree with you because I didn't have any friends that would play Half-Life 2 with me. Therefore, it's not the best game ever.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a personal problem.
I'm just saying, if I haven't played it, well, I have played it, but I was running around multiplayer levels all by myself, so therefore, it wasn't that much fun. So I don't know. You have to convince me. Why should I believe Half-Life 2 is the best game ever?
Well, it's not just the game, though. Like I said, it's that if you look at all the other, a lot of other first-person shooters, they take so much from Half-Life 2. And it also spawned Counter-Strike, which has one of the biggest followings.
Counter-Strike. It is a good mod, but, would it have existed because of Half-Life 2? I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. That's the technology in the intelligence of the modders, not as much the game itself.
Well, technically, Half-Life 1 was Counter-Strike, and then Source was for Counter-Strike. Source.
Yeah. You can go with the Half-Life franchise, though, which is admittedly a very solid franchise, don't get me wrong.
I agree, and of that franchise, 2 is the best.
Are we supposed to argue with him, or are we going to get all the opinions out there first?
Argue all you want. Hey.
I think we have to have the opinions on the deck before we start. Because I'd want to go in and be like, this is why it's not as good as X. But don't get me wrong, Half-Life 2 was phenomenal, but not the best. Really, if you're talking about playing shooters, like if you're talking about best of shooters, the current contender is one of the most recent, one of the top contenders that I think might have outdone Half-Life 2, just from the very little I've played of it. I just bought it a couple days ago because it went on sale. It's BioShock Infinity. It's pretty good.
BioShock Infinite?
If you don't have Half-Life 2, I'm not sure that you can get to BioShock Infinite as now, or if it would take other great shooters between then and now.
If I'm going for best shooter, I think the most influential one would have to be Halo. Not because I personally am a huge fanboy of Halo. I think I stopped playing Halo regularly at Halo 2, but the original Halo was the shooter that everyone and their dog played. Like everybody. If you know people that have played games and you ask them, have you played Half-Life 2, maybe a quarter of them will say yes. If you talk to people who've played even a little bit of games and you ask them, have you played Halo, The answer will be yes, unless they're like 10 years old. Like, it was such a wide impact game. People bought Xboxes just to play Halo, and that's. I could go into further detail, but it's big.
I don't know if that defines what makes a great game, though. That just means that a lot of people have played it. It doesn't mean that it changed the industry. And, for me, the best game isn't just what everybody bought. Because then by that argument, the best game of all time is Call of Duty, which, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I mean, you can make a lot of arguments, but I'm not going to say that Halo is the best game ever just because a lot of people played it. Because I think the last Halo only sold like 400 million or 500 million, maybe 6 the first day, and then like a couple weeks later, Black Ops 2 sold like 800 million in the first day. So I mean, it's and it's only on one platform. So I mean, I don't know. I think if you're going to compare those two games, I think Half-Life 2 is probably going to beat it out, just because it was on PC. That was kind of the main platform. I don't know.
It also came out at a time when PC games.
Go ahead.
It also came out at a time when PC games were not exactly thriving. Back then, a lot of people didn't like Steam. It wasn't like it is today. People thought Steam was, spyware, basically, just gathering all your information, sending it to Valve. So, in order for Half-Life 2 to have the success that it had and to be the blockbuster that it is at that time is even more incredible.
So
Let's get all the games on the deck before we start.
So are you saying Halo right now, Derek? Is that what you're saying?
No. I mean, I think Halo was more important in terms of shooters, but not in terms of games of all time. If I had to go for best game of all time, there's so many good options, but I to be Legends of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I'm not going to go into why. Let's get all the games on the deck, so we know what the options are.
All right, George.
And then we'll rip each other apart.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to one-up you and say that Shadow of the Colossus is the best game of all time objectively. It is the best Zelda game of all time. What? It is the best shooter of all time, just because I said so.
Well, look at that.
So deal with that.
I'm leaving now.
Oh no, I didn't really plan ahead or anything. I have no idea. So wait, are we doing objective or?
What do you think is objectively the best game of all time?
So objectively, objectively, I might actually go with I don't know. I feel like I have to go with what I've spent the most time on. And I've spent the most time on League of Legends. Like, I can vote for a different game that I played for like 30 or 40 hours. I can vote for a game that I've probably played like 150 hours in the last like 3 or 4 years, whenever beta was. And so I guess like if my votes are my hours, I'll say that. And I think it's also it didn't create a new genre, but it's definitely the strongest, one of the 2 strongest shoes in a new genre that is branching out. Plus, I don't console as much as I PC. That's what I'll say. I don't know if I can defend it.
Hours. It'd have to be Dota for me, but I don't think.
No, I mean, I think
I don't think the hours are what it is.
No, if you're going into that I mean, it's all about our criteria, right? So I mean, if you're going to go into League of Legends, Dota, and MOBAs just in general, then it's going to have to be the original MOBA, which is Defense of the Ancients, back on, I think it was Warcraft. Was it Warcraft 3?
Warcraft 3.
Yeah, that's a mod.
Yeah, it was the mod.
Well, like game-wise, like console game-wise, I have probably, I think this one I would have said, I think someone else is saying, so I was like, I'll slip off, because I didn't want us to like all stream onto the same thing, and so I think like impacting my life. Actually, Final Fantasy, particularly Final Fantasy VII, was like one of the first like RPG games that I really played and then played through again and like 100%ed and stuff like that. And so I really enjoyed that, but I want to kind of take a different branch, and then just like currently what I've invested a lot of time in and really do think is doing well, in that it's maintaining and creating itself, in real time, which things have done in the past. But yeah, I'll just stick with that one.
So I guess I'm the last one who hasn't shared, and I think the game that probably is the best game ever, in my opinion, is going to be StarCraft Original. Um, and then I'll go ahead into my reasons now that everybody's got them on the table, and we'll go from there. But I mean, let's just face it; it's a game that has defined a country in South Korea, and it's one of the few games that basically took esports to be actually a reality. And
Yeah.
there's no other game out there that has television shows dedicated to it, unless you include Twitch TV and stuff like that now, which I guess theoretically could be considered a television show.
But a lot of that is either Dota, League, or StarCraft.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one reason why. Also, because it was a great game. I remember as a kid playing with my 56K modem, trying to connect and play StarCraft online with other people, and building all my bunkers or I was Protoss, so I built all my cannons around my base island, and it's like, come and get me. And then the guy would come and destroy me because I only had one base, and he was on like 16 by that point.
Yeah.
And he's like making fun of me. You want me to come kill you now? I'm like, bring it on, dude. And then he actually did come and did Archon drops and destroyed me. I was
introduced to StarCraft by a friend, and the only thing he ever wanted to play was Big Game Hunter, No Rush. So he'd make
that's the only way to play.
For people to join, and he's like, No Rush, 10, 20 minutes or whatever, and we played Big Game Hunter. And I was like, this game is really boring, and it wasn't until I played it right later. And I was like, this game's a lot more interesting. It was, yeah.
But yeah, so that's mine, and I dare anyone else to say otherwise.
All right, no problem.
No problem. So we have them all on the table. So we have StarCraft, League, Ocarina of Time, not Bioshock.
Half-Life 2.
And wait, what was the last one?
Half-Life
Shadow
2.
of the Colossus.
Oh, Shadow of the Colossus. Those are all excellent options.
I can point out why George loses right here. He said it was the best Legends of Zelda game.
He said it was the best dating simulator.
It actually is, too.
Find a girl who's passed out on a bench.
She's dead.
Does that sound all right? That's not how dating works.
No, let's do this. Please.
I heard a bell ring.
No, it was like, oh yeah, I need the sound effects.
Should I explain why it's the best Zelda first?
Yeah.
Go for
it. It basically distills everything that's excellent about Zelda, takes out all the fluff, and does everything so perfectly in terms of exploration, story, combat, if you can call it that, the pure excitement of just everything is distilled into this perfect, I don't know how to... It's so dense and excellent and perfect. And Zelda games, as much as I used to like them, are at this point have been eclipsed by games like the Souls games, which I'll hopefully have time to get into later, which I would say those are better than Zelda now. They are
Soul Calibur?
Sorry, Dark Souls and Demon Souls. I would say they are the new Zelda as far as I'm concerned.
Say that. Please tell me you didn't say Soul Calibur.
The whole series.
You're going to be gaming banter with Ryan if you keep that up.
Oh, no. Wait.
No, I don't think Ocarina of Time is necessarily the best game because it has the best gameplay mechanics. I mean, game development has come a long way since Ocarina of Time came out. But the reason Ocarina of Time was such an influential game is because it created the fighting puzzle game. And on top of that, I mean, what the developers of Legend of Zelda were able to do was something that no one had really even dared before. And it captured the imagination of everyone my age. And
In what way?
Like...
You said that they were able to accomplish something that no one had been able to accomplish before. In what way?
It was the depth of the 3D puzzle environment. Like it was defining. Like it was the crown. I think it was number one. I think it was kind of the crowning moment of the Legend of Zelda series in general, because taking it from kind of the puzzle game of what was the SNES version, Link to the Past.
Yeah.
Yeah. taking it from the 2D Link to the past to the 3D Ocarina of Time was just an incredible jump. And on top of like the puzzle genre, which is just the fighting puzzle genre, which is essentially spawned. I mean, whenever you have a game that's similar to that, it's always compared back to Legends of Zelda. Not only did it spawn that genre, but on top of that, the game had a solid storyline, which was interesting. It had a lot of hours you could put into it. I mean, overall, I think number one, it was immensely enjoyable. The gameplay experience as a whole, for most people, not everyone. George would be the example. He said he couldn't make it through. But I think most people had a really good time playing Legends of Zelda. The gameplay mechanics were fun, they were interesting, they were challenging, at least when I was a kid. Maybe they wouldn't be anymore. It defined a genre, it was wildly popular, and it was just incredible. There are lots of games I like better now, years later, but at the time, for what it was, I mean, it's like Star Wars. You look at Star Wars now, and Star Wars isn't really that big of a deal. But the reason it's such an important moment in cinematic history is what George Lucas managed to accomplish with the technology at the time. I mean, I think that's what Legends of Zelda is.
Star Wars isn't a big deal.
Well,
are you serious right now? I mean,
who younger than us prefers the original trilogy to the modern trilogy?
Anyone who's seen them.
Not true.
What, you think people like the newer ones more than the older one?
I much prefer the originals. I think the prequels were awful. But okay, to be fair, most of the
I'll say the same thing for Zelda, actually.
Most of the people I've talked to on this subject were much younger than me and like Chinese. So I don't know about the American.
Did they have access to the original Star Wars movies?
Yeah.
I thought that they were comedy.
No, I showed them. One of the things I did for my classes is I'd show them all to my students outside of class. Like after class, I had a movie club, and my students all preferred the prequels because they're newer, they're flashier, they're better looking. And I think that's true of kids who grew up with the prequels. But for us, the people who were around before the prequels came out, Star Wars is a much bigger deal. Number one, because it was better, like story-wise. You get what I'm saying. Star Wars isn't as pretty today as it was at the time, but it was a huge deal graphically at the time. It's not a huge deal graphically now. I'm not talking about like cultural impact. I'm talking about like visual.
For the industry.
Yeah, for the industry, for visual effects, all that kind of stuff. Visual effects now, it's not that impressive, but at the time, it was such a huge deal. And I think that's what Ocarina of Time was. It had a whole bunch of different things come together that were incredible for the time.
I think a lot of its success, as you said, is because it came out at that time. It came out, in '98. The internet was not prevalent at all. You couldn't go look things up, or very few people could. So you had to talk to your friends. You had to play for hours to get all the gold Skulltulas. You had to watch your friend's cousin play to figure out how to get the big Goron sword. There was just all this stuff that brought people together to play the game.
Yeah.
And I think part of its success is because of that. If you could just go look everything up, if you just have your tablet on your lap today while you're playing it and you just go look everything up, is it going to be as fun playing it for the first time? You can just go look up a dungeon guide and not
it's not
spend an entire
comparable.
weekend in the water temple,
Yeah.
So how much of it is a product of the time it came out and how much of it is good game design?
The time of it matters. That's a huge deal. You can look at all sorts of different media productions and say, well, it's not that great now. But you have to include the time it was created in. And I think that's an incredibly important part of the criteria. Otherwise, you throw out all the games made before 2000 practically. And I don't think that's just. I think that some of those older games deserve to be in the running for what they were when they were made, because some of them were just revolutionary. Another good example is GoldenEye. GoldenEye kind of was the shooter party game that I think kind of was the precursor for Halo in terms of multiplayer.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna look at
Goldeneye
it from if you're gonna look at it from most influential games for shooters, I'd probably say GoldenEye beats out Half-Life 2. Sorry, David. But the controls were absolutely horrendous,
They were
and
terrible.
Have
it's
you
still
gone
hilarious
back and
to go
played
back.
GoldenEye recently?
Oh yeah,
Goldeneye's
Talk
it's,
about controls.
It's awful, don't get me wrong, but at the time, it was incredible. It was unlike anything else out there.
I
mean,
agree. I played the crap out of it at the time.
I'm
I'll-
curious now.
I'll clear off the deck and let someone else.
I mean, GoldenEye released in 1997, and Half-Life 2 came out in 2005. So I mean, you're talking about 8 years of development difference there. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think that Ocarina of Time is really that great of a game. It was an RPG. There was from a storytelling perspective, it's the same exact story that happened in Link to the Past. Obviously there's differences, but in general it's the same story. What's game changing about that? Really, your entire argument is based off of the fact that it's a 3D environment now. Big deal. I mean,
It was a big deal at the time. It was a huge deal at the time.
I don't think that that's a huge deal. I mean, if you look at, there's a ton of other games that have better storytelling and better epic environments that they kind of create. I mean, Halo is a good example of an epic environment that has awesome storytelling and new mechanics that they're adding into the game. That was something that you got behind. Or in the case of Final Fantasy, also another game that has amazing storytelling and is kind of genre defining. I don't know. My thoughts.
I mean, Halo is my other option, to be honest. Halo is also an incredible game. But I really love. I mean, Final Fantasy is probably one of my favorite games of all time, subjectively. But I think the major thing that disqualifies Final Fantasy VII is the fight system, like how the battles work. God, it was boring. Like so much of that game you spent like farming through like thousands of dudes on the map, and it made me want to tear my eyes out so I could get to the next story point. That was the one thing that I found immensely frustrating about that game. I think it wasn't. I mean, the way the battle system worked was how it had worked for a long time. The strong point of Final Fantasy VII, and I think if it's going to be best game of all time, it needs to be solid everywhere. The strong point of Final Fantasy VII was the incredible storyline. Like, it was one of the most compelling plots for a game that I've ever been involved in. But the actual battles, I didn't think were particularly good most of the time.
Wow. Well, let's just get off of that one and go on to George. And George, why is Shadow of the Colossus, in your mind, the best game ever? Make your argument.
Well, if we were talking about the different criteria of what makes a perfect game or the most influential game, I can't say it's the most influential in the sense of like everyone's played it. In fact, most people I talk to have not played it, or very few people have. It's more of an artsy story kind of game. It's not really mechanically, it's not the deepest thing in the world. But I would argue everything that it tries to do, it does it. It nails it. 10 out of 10. Like, I was trying to talk to myself in my car on my way home from work to try to make my points here. The music's perfect. The controls are perfect. The world is perfect. The story is perfect. The feeling of climbing these monsters is perfect. The actual experience of beating them. Everything I experienced in that game, like it peaked at 10 and it never went below that line. And I would even say it like went up to 11 sometimes, because like no game can make my palms sweat that much, where I'm on top of a monster 150 feet in the air, and like my palms are actually sweating. I'm trying not to let go, and you're looking down at the ground, and even now, like, very few games give you that sense of tension. It's a very simple mechanic. You're just holding R1 and watching your grip meter go down slowly. But all the while, you're trying to figure out the weakness of these enemies, and they're throwing you around, and you're just this little guy. But oh, it's so delicious when you finally get them, and just the pure experience. It is the ultimate game. Like, that is the reason we play video games, to save the girl. This is guys, all right, I'm sure girls would disagree, but I'm saying it's the classic game story. Save the princess. She's dead. Or she's probably dead, and you have to bring her to life. But the most beautiful thing, and I want to spoil this for you, Ryan, I want to tell you because I want you to play this game. You have to bring her back to life, right? But you go into this temple in this forbidden land, and you're not supposed to be there, and this voice tells you have to kill these 16 colossi, and then it'll bring the girl back to life. But every time you kill one, it's kind of like, am I doing the right thing here? What am I actually doing? What are these things? And you start to question why you're doing it, but you got to bring the girl back. But is something else going on? And what's really happening? And it's so mysterious, and at the same time, you're just this guy who doesn't know what's going on. You want to save the girl. It's so perfect.
I will say this for Shadow of the Colossus. I haven't played it a lot. I only got to mess around with it a little bit at a friend's house. But it is the only game where, like, you regularly hear this from people. It's not just that, like, someone played it personally and enjoyed it. Like, it's one of the few games that I regularly hear was spectated. Like, the game was so compelling that other people sat down and watched you play. Like, that's impressive to me. Like, I hear that all the time. Like, my friends will be like, well, yeah, I didn't play it, but I watched my friend play it, and it was awesome.
Sacrilege, though.
Well...
I'll tell you.
You don't own the console. What do you want from us?
Buy a PS3 just to play this game. I'm telling you.
They're like $20.
You can buy a PS3. You play Demon's Souls automatically worth the price, and then you buy Ico and Shadow of the Colossus collection for $20. That's the best deal you'll ever get. Forget it.
Well,
and Valkyria Chronicles.
If I can buy the game and then go and change the way Final Fantasy VII works and get my materia back, I'd be happy. If I can resurrect the girl in that game. But
why did you bring that up?
Whoa, spoilers.
Spoilers.
You don't know who.
I didn't say who.
There's a lot of options.
I did feel like I got all these Phoenix Downs. What am I doing with these? Nothing. It kind of broke its own logic there in the game for a little while. But
she got stabbed though.
But everyone was getting
else was
shot up and
KO'd.
stabbed. Oh, KO'd. You're right.
Yeah.
It was knocked out. I got shot by all these bullets and knocked out.
She had to die for the story to work.
Yeah.
But did they have to take all my items with her?
Yeah, because then it meant something. Then
Did you lose the
lost.
I couldn't remember. I think didn't you get the items? But I think.
Oh no, you didn't get the
You
items.
looted your body.
I mean, you would think.
I did the side quest to loot the body. It's.
What? How'd you activate that?
No, there isn't one.
I was holding all my potions.
Why'd you tell them that they could have been like searching around for hours and never figuring it out? Where's the side quest?
Everyone did it.
Everyone.
I mean, if we could do an episode about just gaming rumors, that'll be at the top of the list. How do we bring her back?
Yeah. So, Double D, I think you're the only one who hasn't made a compelling argument for your game. So before we go into the voting stage of who made the most compelling argument, you.
Again, yeah, I lean towards similar one you made with StarCraft. That it's kind of it's a professionally played game. It validifies games as a sport even more. It's one of the esport games. And there's a lot of different games where people do speed runs through Mario, or what was that video game that had the guy from or that movie that had the guy from I can't remember the name of the show. Wonder Years, right? And he had to the Wizard. Oh, remember that kid
from Mario 3?
Kids go illegally download the Wizard and watch it, or rent it from Blockbusters, or however you get a hold of it nowadays.
Bankrupt.
Redbox, the Wizard. But yeah, so he played Mario World 3, I think, competitively. But you don't see that kind of stuff as often. But yeah, so League of Legends is one of our competitive games, so it kind of, I don't know, validifies video game playing more in the outside world. Probably doesn't. Nobody knows what it is out in the outside game world. But and then just the amount of time put into it, the amount of people who play it, not who have played it but are playing it still regularly. and just the fun. And then for me, a large part of a game is like the community side of it. Again, I'm not as much of a consoler as a a multiplayer get together, play with friends kind of thing. And so I do like the both super toxic negative community that it's known for, but also the really positive when you're together with friends and having fun community. So that's why I guess I vote for that. It hasn't done like astounding things, especially storytelling wise. Although they do put in the time to make stories for each of the characters, and a lot of the stories overlap. And even like if you use like your taunt commands with certain characters nearby, they'll interact differently and stuff. So they try to have a lot of kind of lore element in the game as well. I don't care as much about it, so I don't appreciate the full richness, but they put that effort in. So I think it has a lot of things, and I think it is, in a lot of ways, some of the next steps of gaming. Whether that makes it, the best ever, it's hard to say, but I definitely put the time in to have to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool game, and they have really cool trailers, but it's just not compelling to me in terms of best game ever. I mean, I've played it, and it just doesn't have... It's got some interesting things that they've added to the MOBA genre, so it could be argued, in my opinion, that it's the best or most influential game of the MOBA genre, but not... Yeah.
League's biggest contribution, I think, was its free-to-play model. It pretty much said, hey, free-to-play can be good, guys. It doesn't have to be these crappily made games where they're really trying to gouge you. You can play a game for free competitively if you're good enough.
That's another thing.
That was League's biggest contribution.
And it's impressive how many people pay just for skins. Like, they don't pay to play it. They don't pay to have better access to it or something like that. Like, millions of dollars are spent just on people liking the character they're playing so much that they want it to look different.
Yeah, I bought one.
Yeah, so there is a connection to the characters, even though the characters don't have a depth. The way you feel when you play them, people connect to the characters, and some people are like, oh, I like my this, or I like my that, and people are like, this is a good, like the best character in the game, and so people do get connected in a different way. I do kind of compare League to almost like maybe a sport, like comparing football to a movie about football. There's a lot of games that have such compelling storylines and stuff that they're like a movie about football. Like, you don't watch a football game and cry and say Rudy, Rudy every time you watch a football game, but Rudy, the game about football game, is compelling. But then if you're talking about a game you want to go play with friends and get competitive and get better at, if you like to play football, you would go practice and put hours into football. So some games in a movie aspect have more compelling content, but then League, you're playing it and you're like crunched over your keyboard, like trying to get stuff to go off before you get stunned and things.
All right, time for a vote.
Uh-oh.
The deliberations are over because we got to move on to our next thing. So, who votes that David Double D made the best argument? You can't vote for yourself.
What? Oh, wow! A lot of people out there. That's the fans.
Cheating.
I will admit the legacy of League of Legends is very important to the gaming history.
So you're voting for David then? You can only vote once.
Oh, I just wanted to...
He's not going to vote for me. I don't know if I would even particularly, per se, vote for me, because I do think the genre we're talking about might be slightly outside of, or I think it's too far to the side of the genres we're talking about to necessarily count.
Well, I can't.
All right, well, I guess no votes for David. Oh.
Wait a minute. Oh, there's
support you.
There's a sad face mask, but whenever you push it, it just does. It does. Can you hear that? I don't know why is that the sad face? I need like people crying. But whatever.
That sounded like the entrance of the evil overlord.
That sounded like Inception.
All right, so moving on. Who thought that Half-Life 2 was the best game of all time?
I also admit its legacy is impressive.
You guys do have to vote for somebody. As a side
I know who I'm going to vote for.
I have my vote.
Me.
I can't vote for myself. I know who I'm.
I think we all vote for ourselves.
No, I know who I'll vote for if it's not Ocarina of Time.
All right, so let's do it a little bit differently then. Double D, who do you vote for?
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, man. There's actually a lot of great options. Yours was StarCraft, right? Did anyone do Final Fantasy? Oh, I could have done Final Fantasy. But I think I will do Shadow of the Colossus because I do think It was a really fun game. It is a game where like your hand is hurting because you're either pushing the button to cling when you cling when they're moving so you don't get thrown off, and then as soon as they stop moving, you have to start moving up. You have to start climbing. So you're either climbing or moving for like 20 minutes, and so you're like and you're like, oh, my hand hurts, but I can't let go.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Grue, who are you voting for?
I'm voting for Ocarina of Time.
That is a good
I
option.
Ooh, boo.
I think it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Boo.
It's an incredible game for what it was.
I gotta go with that.
All right, Derek.
I do have to go with Shadow of the Colossus if I can't. It's
Victory!
I don't know what is
It's a
this
really
nonsense.
good game. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, George.
If I can't vote for my own,
If you can't, you can't. Nobody else can vote for
If
their
I
own.
can't.
I guess Link to the Past. I don't
Oh,
because
man,
of
you
its
guys are
legacy.
horrible.
Because of its legacy, it invented Z-targeting. That's the most important thing that happened to 3D action games.
You know, you put me in a very awkward position because you didn't vote for mine, and now I'm in a place to vote for who wins.
Is it a tied up? Oh, Ocarina? I didn't think.
No.
Mine, maybe.
No, I actually have to go with Shadow of the Colossus because I will admit that
Oh,
it sounds like an amazing game. I need to play. And I just didn't like your points, Derek. They were wrong.
Sorry. It's hard to have a critical opinion about something that happened to you when you were in middle school, okay?
Can I make a speech right now?
That's
No,
my
you're
concern.
not allowed to have a speech. We'll let you do speeches if we have time. Because that'll take another 20 minutes.
I just want to say
Alright.
it was Japan. I'm happy. I know it was made in Japan.
I want to thank my
Ocarina of Time. That doesn't...
Have you not played it, Ryan? The Shadow of the Colossus?
No, I haven't.
I have it.
You are missing
Play
it.
it. I have a PlayStation.
You
2,
must
too.
play it,
You can
100%.
borrow it. It's only like a 20-hour game or something.
Less.
All right, so moving on to subjective favorite games. Same basic idea. We'll go through everybody real quick and say what we think is our favorite subjective game, and then go from there. So say what your opinion is. So David, if Final Fantasy VII is your favorite game, say it. And we'll start with you, Double D.
Oh, so this is subjective. Yeah, I think I'll say Final Fantasy, and particularly 7, because I think it was the first game that made me feel emotions. I was like a teenager also, so I was unsure how to feel about the world. Plus, like, yeah, I've even told people, like, between, like a lot of kids wish they had the Force or a lightsaber and stuff like that. I always, like, if I had to choose between, like, the Force and a lightsaber or Materia, I never say it right. I don't know. But the little stone that gives you magic. I wanted that instead. Like, I pretended when I was a kid, because I played it when I was pretty young, that I could, like, just throw lightning. I like the lightning effect the best when you throw lightning and you'd, like, put your hand up and then it would go.
All right, Grue, what about you?
I gotta go with Ocarina of Time. I've loved this game for a long time, and then the remake came out on the 3DS, and I started playing in it, and I was a little nervous, you know, because I had going into my head, this is the best game ever made, and then I played through it, and I enjoyed it even more this time.
It holds up pretty well.
The 3D remake was awesome. The graphics looked crisp and really just spot on. The world is huge. There's a day-night cycle. There's tons of stuff to do, tons of quests. The dungeon design is nothing short of genius, so I gotta go with that.
I wish I had put you in charge of doing Ocarina of Time, because that was a much better summation of why the game is awesome than what I just said.
All right, we're going to move on to the Dark Lord of the Sith, a.k.a. Derek, because it's completely dark there.
Yeah, it's getting dark outside. Oh man, I need to do something New Orleans now.
Uh-oh.
Favorite game of all time subjectively? That's really hard. For me, the most important part of a game is the story. The gameplay mechanics themselves can be awful, and I can still have a really good time. A great example is Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth, which has some of the worst gameplay mechanics ever, but has a fantastic story. Best game of all time subjectively. Red Dead Redemption? Alan Wake? I don't know. Red Dead Redemption. Maybe.
Okay.
It's just such a... there haven't been as any games that have gripped me and pulled me in and felt as in control of their story as Red Dead was. There weren't any points in the game where I was bored. I had, not only was there a compelling main storyline and interesting characters and lots of cool stuff to do, the gameplay mechanics themselves were exciting, and I love westerns. It's hard to find a point about Red Dead that I didn't like. Subjectively, it's my favorite.
All right, George.
I'm going to consider them one game, and I'm going to say Demon's Souls / Dark Souls.
It's a good option.
It really is.
They are the best Zelda game ever made.
Ocarina of Time, dang it.
Let me actually qualify that, because it really is Ocarina of Time. Basically, it is the adult Zelda that everyone wants but will never get. It perfectly does everything that we want in a 3D exploring. Like, I'll use Demon's Souls because I keep on talking up Dark Souls so much, but like, you go through these maps, unlock shortcuts, checkpoints. The combat is amazing. The boss fights are amazing. The stories are mysterious. The locations are... There's like secrets on every corner. There's hundreds of hours of gameplay in both of these games. That everything I want in a game is in these games. Now, that's not to say that those are the perfect games. Like, I love Final Fantasy VII. I would gladly add that to my list, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or Metroid Prime. But in terms of pure hours played and what it tries to do, it does so well. I have to go with those two games, and I will be glad to defend them.
So
I don't know how anyone can challenge you. They're fantastic. Like, Dark Souls, I think the thing that I found so compelling about Dark Souls was the big payoff for games. Like, a good game can be ruined if it's too easy. And not only did Dark Souls have a good plot, but it was emotionally satisfying when you accomplished it. Like, even fighting normal dudes was challenging. And that's, I think, beyond like the stellar level design and interesting dungeons and the horribly challenging boss fights. Like, every level of the game was difficult to get through, at least from the beginning. Until
Even the weakest enemies could kill you, just one of them.
You can't screw around playing.
No, famously, I would say nobody I knew played Demon's Souls back when it came out. I bought a PS3 just to play it. It was worth it. And I would brag that it took me 5 hours to beat the first level of Demon's Souls. And nobody that would hear that story from me thought I was sane. They're like, why are you playing this game? Yeah. But I was like, no, you don't understand. It is so fun to die and keep trying. Like, I would not get... It took me at least 2 hours to get past the first stretch of enemies on level 1-1, just to cross that bridge. And I was getting murdered by these weak, like, drone bad guys, zombies. But once I cleared them and I started making progress, I have never gotten such an empowered feeling. Like, no, this world is mine. It's just a matter of time. It was so fun.
So what you're saying is you became a dictator of... You were the Nazis in Demon's Souls, is what you're saying.
Hang on a second.
No, but anyways, before we go into the rants of why a game is great and everything like that, we should probably finish the circle, which is Halo. Halo Original Combat Evolved, just because of the elements of how awesome the multiplayer was, how it really kind of took the next step towards building a multiplayer environment on that. It wasn't multiplayer online yet, but it was just so amazing that it really set the tone for that to become a big deal. Like, everybody wanted to play with everybody else. Everybody wanted to have these massive battles. And I don't know, just the storyline combined with the multiplayer made it a lot of fun for me. So, but yeah, so that's my game. We'll do 2 minutes per, let's see, 5, 10. We've only got about 11 minutes, so 2 minutes per, and then we'll have a vote. So starting with Double D, defend your game. 2 minutes.
Oh no, it's objectively, I enjoyed it the most. No, yeah, I do think, I don't know if it introduced anything super new, but I do know that a lot of people enjoyed playing, and it is kind of an iconic game for a lot of people. Just the amount of people you can do, like, there's a thing that me and my roommate do, is it's called the waiting on the train, and I think I was doing it, or he was doing it, and I was like, are you doing the waiting on the train thing from Final Fantasy VII when Cloud is with Sephiroth and he's on the train and he's like doing this like weird like bouncing thing? And so it's just like those iconic parts of it that a lot of people from at least my generation like all know and you could like talk to them about. And so yeah, I think it just had an impact as far as like gameplay. I don't know, I guess it probably wasn't anything miraculous. And even story might not have been the most mind-altering or bizarre or something, but I think I connected to it at least as a kid. And I played it. I think I played it like 3 or 4 times through just for the sake. Beat all the the weapons and stuff like that. So that's why I like it. I don't know. It's objective, so I can't really say it's on some sort of like tiered level better than other games based on sales or the way it impacted future gameplay or something. But I liked it.
It did all those things, though.
It did.
Did it?
It set the bar for stories in terms of role-playing games, I think.
Your opinion is valid.
Yeah, and plus it's just a part of the Final Fantasy series, which has done a lot of great things and hopefully will come back strong.
So Grue,
Yeah.
defend your game.
All right. I love exploring in games. I love finding all the nooks and crannies. I love running around huge open zones. That's why I love playing MMORPGs, because they have huge, vast worlds that I can go and explore. And The Legend of Zelda, I think, really got me into that. There was so much, especially on an N64 game, and it was all open. You could do tons of different things, too. You got horseback riding. You've got fishing.
Archery.
You're delving into caves, you're climbing mountains, just all this stuff that you can do in that game, and it's just a joy to go and explore. And I think that's the best way to describe playing it, is it's just a joy to play. It's just pure fun. Except for a few frustrating points here and there, there's no part where I'm playing where I'm not just having fun and enjoying myself. And all the characters are unique. There's tons of interesting characters. IGN just had an article about the most interesting characters in the Zelda series. You should go check them out. There's a bunch of characters in there. You have a silent protagonist in Link, but he gets so much character attributed to him and shows his character in other ways. That's really great. Not unsimilar to Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. So, yeah, and just like we were saying, the legacy it left behind, all that it did for the industry, how it set the standard for 3D worlds. And, yeah. I could go on forever. I have on my bookcase, I have the big encyclopedia with all the stuff and the characters and the storyline and all that. I could go on for hours.
Hyrule Historia.
Yeah.
All right, Darth Derek. Defend your game.
I mean, I can't argue that it's the best, but the reason I found Red Dead so compelling is the most important part of games for me is a combination of the storytelling and the immersion. I want to get sucked into a game and feel like I am the character. That's the most important part for me. And the fun thing about Red Dead is right from the get-go, you feel like a cowboy. And I love the Old West. It's as simple as that. And beyond the immersion of the game, do any of you guys read Cormac McCarthy, or like anybody who's written like westerns and stuff? There are like certain stories that really evoke the sort of the ethos of Western stories as a whole, and Red Dead is one of those. I hesitate to explain why that is, because it's a huge spoiler. I can't really talk about the game's plot because I want you to play it if you haven't. But it is one of the best Western stories. It's set at the turn of the century when the cowboy is sort of dying away, and you're playing as this guy named John Marston, who's sort of one of the last cowboys. He's this guy who was once a former notorious outlaw and has since sort of cleaned up his ways. He's got a family. He's kind of your Wyatt Earp kind of character. He used to be an outlaw, and now he's a family man. He's got a ranch, and he's got a wife and kids. And it's essentially these two government agents come in and run off with your family. And they say, what we want you to do is we'll give you your family back if you go and track down your former gang members and kill them. And that's the setup for the game. And I can't go any further than that without giving away some huge plot points that really make the game what it is. But the story was just so powerful, and it was so good at talking about some of the things that's, number one, kind of important to the Western mythos, and number two, really it's a story of turn of the century America, which is fascinating as well.
All right, George, defend your game.
All right. I haven't thought this 100% of the way through, but I have this theory that I say there are two types of games, and maybe you guys can help me out with this. I say there are, on one hand, toy games, and on the other hand, experience games, where toy games are very mechanically centered, where you play them, they have they might be competitive games or games that feel good to run around and hit things. They're very based on just creating something like a toy for the player to play with, basically. And on the other hand, there's the experience games where there's a story that the author wants to share with you, or there's an experience that you just have to have in there. So my choice, objectively, I hear my own voice, it's driving me crazy. Subjectively, I'm choosing a toy game because Demon's Souls and Dark Souls are toy games in the sense that they are these challenges that the director, Hidetaka Miyazaki, puts in front of you and says, I want you to interact with this world that I've built for you. I want you to conquer it, and you will be a better person when you beat it. And I love the feeling of improving myself as a person, just in general, whether it's art or like doing as many push-ups as I can or whatever. It's just I love the feeling of improving myself. Not that I'm anywhere near I'm never going to reach that mountain, but the whole point is that you always feel like you're climbing. So I love the feeling of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls where you feel like when you beat them, you have improved as a person. Your reflexes are better, your exploration skills are better, you're just a better person. And I can't think of any games that have made me feel so satisfied in every sense, except for, as far as toy games go. Experience games are a whole other spectrum. And also, it did so many things, like, for instance, being able to leave messages for other players. I can't tell you how many times I've been trolled where some guy would, like, put a message on the ground in front of a cliff and say,
jump off here!
Yeah, jump, there's a secret. And you would, and then you would die. And then, but the game, it let that happen. And there were just as many helpful hints as there were bad ones. So that always kept you on your toes. There was never a dull moment in those games, and I played them for hundreds of hours. More than I'd care to admit.
So to get to our last one before we, because we're running almost to an hour now. So to get to our last one before we do our vote, Halo. And obviously that's my game. So Halo to me was something that I just remember playing the game for the first time and going and seeing these aliens attacking our ship. And the feeling of epicness just, as soon as you crash landed on the planet, you just saw this massive, massive ring, and you just didn't know what to do. You're like, well, crap, my ship just got destroyed, and what am I gonna do? And you were immediately immersed into this environment, and you just were going through it. And I remember you could play with co-op or single player, and the fact that you could do co-op was so.
That was a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where you couldn't ever really do a co-op mode before. It was always a single-person kind of RPG element. But for me, being a part of that epic environment and being a part of this game that was just all-encompassing was fantastic. And yeah, so I mean, that's why I think Halo is by far my favorite game, and I think it's subjectively the best game of all time, just because of that feeling of epicness. You didn't really see it in a lot of other games until that point. So yeah.
The end when you go on the freaking.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. The sense of urgency.
Nothing like that.
I mean, the sense of urgency that you felt because of the flood. You're just like, I've got to do this, or the whole entire universe is going to get wiped out. Like there was no small scale. It's like, yeah, I'm trapped on this ring. Yeah, I'm probably going to die. But if I don't do this, everyone's going to die. And so you just felt really important, even though you really weren't, because you were just playing the game at home. But anyways, so let's go back to Double D, and who are you gonna vote for, Double D?
Oh. Wait, so what are all the options do we have? Halo, we had Final Fantasy VII. I can't remember who said that one.
That was you.
Oh, never mind. I was gonna vote for that one then.
Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Red Dead.
I do like Dark
Zelda.
Souls. We know that. Oh, but I can't vote for George twice.
No, you can.
Oh, is that I didn't know. I think I might say Dark Souls just because it was not only a good game to play, but in the house I was living at the time with the different guys. You included, Ryan.
Yeah.
it was an bonding experience. Like we would do, we'd play and cry together. We'd hold each other and weep.
Yeah.
All right, Grue.
I gotta go with Halo. Brought back a lot of fond memories of playing that game with my buds. Just real quick, we went to someone's house for spring break once, and I think we left twice for food and mostly played Halo. So, yeah, it did have this grand scale, and it brought people together. So, yeah.
I remember whenever they added 4-player multiplayer with Xbox Live online play, and it's just, or worse yet, whenever you played Legendary, and like one of you would stay back, and the other one would go in and suicide, and then you'd respawn and just do it over and over again. But, anyways, enough plugging my own game. Dark Lord, Derek.
Halo.
Oh.
I love Dark Souls, but Halo. I remember. Here's what I remember about Halo. I remember me and my friend playing for like 12 hours straight. And I came out into the kitchen, it was still in high school, and there were a bunch of people in my kitchen. I don't remember why. And my first instinct, I was so immersed in the game, my first instinct was to pull left trigger and throw a grenade at them. Like, I kid you not. I literally almost like twitched my left finger. That's how sucked in I was. So yeah, there's never been anything like that. Halo is just such a good game.
All right, George.
I will tell you what it's not. It's not The Last of Us. Haha, that's a callback.
Watch the previous episode.
Enjoy that episode. Could I just say I love Halo a lot. The first one, I thought the library sequence was one of the coolest things I've ever done in any game ever. I enjoy Red Dead a lot. It's the only Rockstar game I actually like, because it has a morality system. It lets me be a good guy. I love Final Fantasy VII the most. Out of all these, that's going to be my vote, even though I respect Ocarina of Time a lot. Also.
Well, I could vote for somebody else and force a tie here, but honestly, if I had to pick between all four of those games, it's going to be Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, I could vote for Dark Souls, but the fact is, while Dark Souls is a great game subjectively and objectively, it's not. Final Fantasy VII just beats it because it just has that part of my soul tied to it forever. So yeah, I'm gonna vote for Final Fantasy VII, and actually that does force a tie. So who voted for Dark Souls?
I did.
So did I.
Ah.
No, that's okay.
We're in a conundrum here because you can.
Oh. Is there 5
All right,
left?
so we just have a tie. So it's Final Fantasy VII and Halo. That's just what it has to be. Because Dark Souls is the only non-Halo or Final Fantasy VII vote. So that stinks. But anyways, thanks for joining us this week, guys.
Also, the viewers, tell us your opinion. If you've gotten this far, if you're still watching, what are you doing? Probably playing a video game on the other screen. That's what I would be doing. But yeah, tell us your opinion as well down on
Oh yeah, for sure. And rate the games. Take a look
there.
at the games. Right there.
Yeah, rate them on the website too. UltimateGameDatabase.com, home for all your gaming needs.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining this week. We appreciate you tuning in for this season. We're going to start up the next season, and it's going to be a lot of fun too. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Dark Souls. Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, and feel free to take a look at our website, www.ultimategamedb.com, and subscribe to our channel. We would love to see you there. And definitely also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you like us or follow us, you'll be able to see when we're posting new shows and also a lot of articles. The Ultimate Game Database posts a lot of stuff on what games are coming out that week, how the consoles are doing on the console wars, a lot of fascinating stuff. Yeah, so subscribe, like us, tweet us, and we will see you next week. Bye!